Morning, Chenoa.
Good morning.
Fiscum, I believe we have everyone.
We now have,
all of our.
we got 1 minute to go. According to the clock I'm staring at. Okay, guys. Good morning, everybody. It's 9 a.m. on Friday, December 13, 2024. So I hereby call the regular meeting of the Oregon Government Ethics Commission to order. Further, we have a quorum, at least as follows. First, my name is Dave Fiscum, and I am the Commission Vice Chair acting today to chair the meeting, and I am in the Ethics Commission Salem office. Commissioner Jonathan Thompson is as well here with me in the office. Commissioner Chenoa Payne is online. Commissioner Alicia McCauley is online. Commissioner Rick Burke is online. And Commissioner Ivan Resendez Gutierrez is online. I should report to you that Commissioner Dan Mason would like to be online, but is ill today. So we have a quorum and we're ready to proceed. I'll add that our Executive Director, Susan Myers, is here in the Salem office with her staff, including Becky Mason, our investigators, our training staff, and others. And our learned counsel from the Department of Justice, Sean Brady, is here as well to keep us on the legal straight and narrow. Right, Dr. Brady? Okay, our approach today, let me just emphasize that this is going to be a little different. It's not the usual approach, colleagues. What we're going to do first is consider in a moment the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. And let me just run down what happens from there on. Next, we will conduct the election of officers for the next year. Next, we will consider the stipulated final orders consent calendar in your public session agenda. Next, we'll consider the two civil penalties, STIPS STIPs, civil penalties STIPs, items 30 and 31. After which we will move into the executive session and move through some calendar items there until about a 10:55 a.m. break. After which we'll come back and we'll remain in executive session to consider the executive director review, the preliminary review cases, and the own motion issue that's before us in executive session. Finally, then we will move back into the public session and consider the items in which they appear on the calendar. By the way, back in executive session, we'll go as far as we can until the break, and then we'll continue after the break to finish the executive session before the public session. So colleagues, any questions on that? That's going to be our approach today. You don't have to have that memorized because with help from others in the office here, I will lead you to it. So let's move quickly to the minutes for the last meeting. And I'm going to ask if there are any corrections, additions, deletions to those minutes which were distributed to you. Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will undertake a new approach today as well. And in the future, we will consider a specific motion on the minutes and then conduct a formal roll call vote, which will go a long way toward putting us on the record, specifically with regard to meeting minutes instead of just in general without a vote. That said, colleagues, I'm looking for a motion on the minutes from our last meeting. Commissioner Payne, if you're ready.
I move to approve the minutes from November 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Any questions on that? I assume none. Hearing and seeing none. The administrator will call the roll, please, on the minutes, on the motion regarding minutes.
Commissioner McCauley.
Aye.
Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Burke. Thumbs up for aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Resendez Gutierrez,
Aye.
Chair Fiscom.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, colleagues. Now pursuant to the agenda, I think I outlined it before, we'll now move to the election of officers for the 2024 year. The approach here, this is item number 43 on your public session agenda. So we'll move to that right now. Our approach will be to ask for nominations for the two offices before us, the chair and vice chair, and then conduct a roll call vote in two cases. So the first step is I will accept nominations for the chair position for 2024.
2025.
Oh, pardon me, 2025. I apologize. I illustrated my age already, so thank you for the correction. Mr. Thompson, please.
Mr. Chair, I nominate Commissioner Fiscom for Chair of 2020 for the 2025 Government Ethics Commission.
Thank you. Any further nominations, colleagues? Hearing and seeing none, the administrator will call the roll on that motion, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Resendez Gutierrez,
Aye.
Commissioner McCully,
Aye.
Commissioner Burke,
Aye.
Chair
Aye.
Fiscom.
Thank you, Commissioner. Aye. Thank you, colleagues. I hope to be worthy of this quote honor unquote.
Heads up, motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. Next, I will accept nominations for the vice chair position. Having said that, I choose to exercise the prerogative of the chair and nominate Chenoa Payne to serve as vice chair in 2025. Any other nominations? Hearing and seeing none, the administrator will please call the roll on the motion that Chenoa Payne be designated to be vice chair in 2025, please.
Commissioner McCully,
Aye.
Commissioner Burke,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye. I didn't know I voted on this.
Commissioner Resendez Gutierrez,
Aye.
Chair Fiscom.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Congratulations and condolences, Commissioner. Both are in order, you'll find out before long. Okay, colleagues, as I indicated, we will now move to the items number 24 through 29 on your public session agenda. The stipulated final orders as part of the consent calendar. My understanding here, Director, is that we don't need individual reports from our investigators, and we can do these. We do these if we choose to do so in a moment in one motion.
Yes, you can do one motion with roll call vote for all of these items. I do believe there is a conflict needing disclosure.
Yes, and I was gonna say that before we move any farther, does anybody want either two things are in order now? One, if someone has a conflict to declare, that'll be fine. Secondly, does anybody want to remove any item on the consent calendar from the consent calendar and treat it individually? I'll ask the second question first. Does anybody want to remove an item from the consent calendar, the STIP consent calendar, which is number 24 through 29? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move now to anybody who may want to declare a conflict on any of these items.
Yes,
Mr.
this is
Gutierrez, I think you have one, please.
yes, this is Commissioner Ivan Resendez Gutierrez. I'd like to declare a potential conflict of interest related to numbers 25 through 29 regarding the Lane County Board of Commissioners.
Okay, and my understanding, council, is that declaration has been made and Mr. Gutierrez is free to vote if he chooses to do so. Is that accurate?
For potential conflicts of interest, yes. Normally if it is a true potential conflict as outlined in ORS 244, you have to identify the basis for the conflict.
Should Commissioner identify that basis now is what you're advising?
Yes.
Mr. Gutierrez, please.
Yes, my law firm, Miller Nash LLP, represents Lane County and the Lane County Board of Commissioners in general advice matters. So therefore, I will be abstaining from voting on matters 25 through 29.
Thank you, Commissioner. And by definition, your declaration does not include item 24.
That's correct. I am not abstaining from number 24.
Thank you.
So
So
Please.
if we are voting on all of them together, you would need to abstain on all of them. Otherwise, we can pull item 24 out and vote on that separately, and you can abstain from just.
Thank you, Director. Your guidance on the latter is, should we pull that off and vote separately? Doesn't matter for you.
It's what's easier for the commission. I mean,
I think it would be easiest to vote on all of them, and he can simply abstain on
Okay,
number 24.
hearing and seeing that, any colleagues, any questions? Thank you for those clarifications. I'm now looking for a motion on the STIP consent calendar items 24 through 29. Commissioner Payne, please.
I move that the commission approve the proposed stipulated final orders presented on the consent calendar as the final orders in those cases, and that the chairperson be authorized to sign them as such.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions on the motion before us? Hearing and seeing none, the administrator will call the roll, please.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Resendez Gutierrez.
I abstain.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner McCauley,
Aye.
Commissioner Burke,
Thumbs up.
Commissioner Thompson,
aye.
Mayor Fiscom.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, colleagues. Pursuant to the agenda I outlined, we will now move to consider items individually, items 30 and 31, stipulated final orders that involve proposed civil penalties. That said, we'll turn to item number 30. Who is the investigator on this item?
Investigator Andrew McIntyre for the
Thank you.
record.
Commissioner Investigator McIntyre, please proceed with your report. By the way, before I go farther, nobody is signed up to testify on this, am I right, Mr. Esparza?
Well, Mr. or Miss Jasperson did want to be notified and be present. I don't know if that's occurred, but she did not state that she wanted to actually.
Is she online now?
No.
Okay,
We could also return to these two steps later during the public portion of the,
it would be,
that's
Wait. Okay. Colleagues, let's hold off on items 30 and 31 until we move back into the public session agenda later. So we will now move, if I'm right, into the executive session. I'll read a script in a moment that provides the authority for so doing. Before I do that, any questions on what we're going to do now, colleagues? We're moving into the executive session. We'll return to the public session agenda later on this morning at some point once we finish the executive session. Commissioner Gutierrez, please.
Yes. So just to clarify, we're going to move into it. So this is the time to declare a conflict of interest before we enter it, correct?
I will come to that question, Commissioner, in just a moment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that issue because it's a good one to raise. Colleagues, I'm now going to read the executive session script that allows us to proceed into the executive session we're going to hold today. So bear with me as I read what I consider to be a very excellent script written jointly by the Department of Justice and our staff. The Oregon Government Ethics Commission will now meet in executive sessions to consider preliminary reviews and own motion and to conduct the executive director's performance review. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive sessions. When we enter executive session, all other members of the audience will be asked to leave the room. Everyone currently joining the meeting online and over the phone, other than representatives of the news media, will be removed from the meeting. If your case is being heard in executive session, you will need to rejoin the meeting where you will be held in the virtual waiting room until the commission is ready to hear your case. Our staff will text you on the number you provided them to let you know when we are about to hear your case. The first executive session is being held under ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub F and ORS 244.260 sub 4 and ORS 192.685 sub 1 to conduct preliminary reviews of ethics and public meetings law complaints. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed that after the commission has made its final determinations and adjourned to the executive session, they may report on their preliminary review cases, agenda items 44 to 62, including the commission's deliberations and its final determinations. ORS 244.260 sub 4 sub D sub C authorizes the commission to deliberate and make its final determinations on preliminary reviews in executive session. Following the conclusion of the meeting, the commission will publicly disclose and post the audio and video recordings of the preliminary review executive session. The second executive session is being held under ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub F and ORS 244.260 sub 2 sub D to consider whether to open a case on the commission's own motion regarding potential ethics violations. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed that they may not report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said during the own motion proceeding, agenda item 63, except to state the general subject of the executive session as previously announced. Own motion proceedings are confidential under ORS 244.260 sub 2 and remain so even after the executive session is adjourned. The third executive session is being held under ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub I to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the executive director of the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. No determinations will be made in the executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed that they may not report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said during the performance review executive session. Once the executive sessions are concluded, we'll return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. Finally, if any of the commissioners have any conflicts of interest relating to any of the agenda items being heard in executive session, please make your conflict of interest closures now before we enter the executive session. That read, Commissioner Gutierrez, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Yvonne Santos Gutierrez, I would like to declare a potential conflict of interest related to items number 44 regarding the Medford School District, and then items number 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 52, and the other ones relate to the Associated Students of OSU, and then Clatsop County Astoria School District number 30, which I believe also goes by the name of Astoria School District. And a potential conflict of interest is related to the fact that my law firm, Miller Nash LLP, represents these entities as clients, and there is another basis for OSU. And that is that my significant other advised the institution on this matter. So I will be abstaining from all those. I will be abstaining from all those matters, from voting on those matters.
Commissioner, thank you for that clarification on the record. We appreciate it. Any other comments before we close the door and officially open the executive session, colleagues? After that long script and very well done script, you're ready to proceed, I'm going to assume. That said, we will now open the executive session and pursue the executive session agenda more or less in the order in which the items appear on that agenda. So
Clear the room.
I know that we're not, and the door should be closed fairly soon. Mr. Sullivan, please do that. The room will be cleared, virtual and literal. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Appreciate it. Staff, let us know when we should proceed or can be allowed to proceed, please, when you're ready.
We've cleared everyone.
Pardon me?
We've cleared everyone.
Thank you, staff. Our procedure is going to be, as I would understand, Director, to proceed through the items which they appear on the calendar. The agenda is that.
That will work.
Thank you very much. So we'll now proceed through starting with the executive session consent calendar. It might be appropriate for a brief report to be made on these matters 44 through 44E. So we may know what we're voting on if we vote to approve them or
Of
not to
course.
approve them, please.
Chair, commissioners, these 6 items were complaints that had been filed for alleged public meetings law violations, but the complaints did not meet the mandatory prerequisite. They had not filed the grievance and so forth. So we are required to bring them to the commission, and the commission is required to dismiss them because of that reason.
Thank you. Appreciate that comment. That's what I suspected. Colleagues, any questions for our executive before we move toward a vote on the consent calendar for executive session December 13th? Questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none. Commissioner Payne, please.
I move that the commission approve the executive session consent calendar as presented.
Thank you. Questions about the motion, colleagues? Hearing and seeing none, the administrator will call the roll, please.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason. Oh, sorry, Commissioner McCauley,
Aye.
Commissioner Burke,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Chair Fiscum.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. We'll now move to item